Welcome to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are on a mission to interview women and the occasional token man about how their passion and purpose have collided to create healthy relationships and profitable businesses. I'm Elizabeth Denham, publisher of the Franchise Woman magazine. I am here with Rebecca Monet, who is president and chief scientist of Zoracle Profiles. We are here today with Somia Farid Silber. She is the vice president of e-commerce for Edible Brands and a parent company that's a parent company of Edible Arrangements. She's responsible for overseeing digital paid media as well as e-commerce operations for the brand. She is the daughter of Edible founder Tariq Farid, who opened the chain's first location when she was just 6 years old. Somia spent much of her childhood and teen years working at the store, learning the trade, then transitioned into an internship at the brand's corporate headquarters, working with various teams to learn the business. She's graduated from Babson College in Massachusetts with a business degree in administration and management. Her concentration is in strategic management and data analysis. After working on the agency side for a little while, she is back at Edible. And has learned a ton and helped the business grow and succeed even more. So welcome, Somia. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We are. We talked offline for a little bit and learned so much about you. And I think that the story of how you grew up in the business and continued forth in your education and then went out a little bit and came back. Give us a little backstory on that.
Yeah, so like you said, I was 6 years old when my dad, Tariq, founded Edible. So I grew up running around the store. My first job was skewering grapes, and that's like one of the most painful things to do. And slowly worked my way up, started answering phones, taking orders, working back of house. And then when I went to college, transitioned to working in the corporate office during the summertime. So learned various aspects of the business. And after I graduated, we decided that it would be good to go out and get some experience elsewhere and, understand how other businesses work, especially larger organizations. So I went to a digital marketing agency, did some media planning on a few really big accounts. And it was a great experience. It was just nice to see, how large brands and large companies operate, how they manage budgets, how they manage clients, and how they work with different vendors. So it's just really good exposure to have before heading back to Edible, which is a medium-sized business. We have about less than 200 employees. It's not very large. So it's nice to be able to take some of those learnings and bring them into an environment that still has very much a startup, scrappy, lean feel, which we see a lot of in franchising.
Absolutely. In fact, what is it? 80% of franchisors are less than 100 units. So yeah. We are a scrappy business.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Yep. I like that term. So now you are running the digital side of Edible. Mm-hmm. Tell us about what's going on there. What trends are you seeing? What kind of out of the box kind of things are you guys up to?
Yeah, so we have our e-commerce business. It's a very large portion of the business. And it's really interesting because a lot of franchise companies, they're retail. So it's really nice that we have this e-commerce portion and we have our delivery infrastructure, especially going into a pandemic. So it helped us out a lot, and we've had it since day one. So my team does all things digital marketing, social media, paid media, everything that you see on the website when it comes to user experience. And one big trend that we're seeing across the board is the importance of data and personalization when you're talking to your consumers. So, I mean, I'm sure you all get plenty of emails from various retailers every day. We get hit with ads all the time. I think we can't go a day without seeing an ad for something or without getting some sort of a message. So brands are starting to understand that it's really important to have very personalized and customized messages to the consumers, to not only say hey, here's Edible Arrangements, you should shop with us, but you have to give them the why. You have to give them the reason, and you have to know who they are. What are they interested in? What do they affiliate with? Who are they? What kind of audience are you talking to? And making sure that you're tailoring the experience they have to that. So that's something that we're really focused on for the next year or two, is being able to build these personas and audiences and making sure that we're hitting everyone, but we're hitting them in a very unique way. That I'd say that's probably one of the main focuses that all brands should have, especially in franchising too, because it'll be a game changer for everyone when you're able to have that one-to-one relationship with the customers.
I totally get it. I get advertisements and emails and folks and companies reaching out one way or another, LinkedIn, and nothing bothers me more than getting a form something that clearly has not spent any time getting to know who I am, what my business is. I almost find it offensive. I know that sounds kind of, it's like, really? You just wasted 2 minutes of my time reading this and you didn't spend a little bit of time getting to know what my needs are. Or like you said, what the why is. So this idea of personalization, especially in a world where we're just one of billions of people, you know, speaks to the heart, speaks to the needs of that individual.
Yeah, and it also helps create that loyalty with the customer, right? Because then they know they're having that personalized experience, so you're able to increase frequency with them. So where they may only come to you, for us at least, they may only come to us for that Mother's Day or Valentine's Day. When you're giving them personalized messages, personalized offers, they have more reasons to buy. They understand the kind of relationship they can have with Edible, and hopefully they'll come back time and time again, which is a win-win, because it's easy to acquire customers, but it is difficult to retain them. It's cheaper to retain them though. So that's all we're focused on right now, is just figuring out how do we start to customize our communications and our messaging, and making sure that we're hitting each guest and hitting them in a unique way.
So what I think is interesting too is you've come into the business with your dad, who probably attracted a different customer than you might have in terms of messaging and voice. So over the years, how would you say the messaging has changed, and have you had to change it to sort of keep up? Because I would imagine messaging for different generations is very specific.
Yeah, that's a great question. So our target audience for the longest time was women between the ages of 35 and 54. And it's such a wide range, but over the last few years, you have this like millennial audience that's starting to come in, who shop very differently, who aren't necessarily loyal to a brand, right? So for example, when I'm shopping, I'm not necessarily thinking I want to shop with this brand or buy this product. I'm thinking about a need that I have, and I'm thinking about where do I go to fulfill that need. So the shopping behaviors are just very different now. And then it's even more different with Gen Z. They have a very global mindset. They have a very global palette. They consume media very differently. I mean, it's very short snippets. Instant gratification is still a very big thing. So yes, we have had to tailor that messaging. Over the years, our messaging it's been very formal. It's very transactional. It's very much like, we're Edible, here's a birthday gift, right? But over the last few months, we've started to sprinkle in some more fun, playful messaging across all of our channels. And we've started to segment, when we do our media, we actually create different segments as well, so that we're talking to the different audiences in different ways. We're using different words, we're using different nomenclature. And it's funny, sometimes my team manages Instagram too. So we'll put up a post, and someone from the company will say, hey, I don't understand what this caption means, but it's like something that's super relevant on TikTok right now. So we're just taking that trend that's on TikTok and moving it over and playing with it. So yeah, it's getting more fun. It's getting a little more fluid. And it's different for the brand. I think it takes a little bit of time to adjust to it, but it's also, like you said, necessary to be able to keep up with that next generation.
Yeah, well, it is. It's changing so quickly, because I have children ranging from 14 to 22. And even within that group, they speak differently, and they have different online experiences. The 14-year-old is just discovering some of the things. The older ones have already moved on, so keeping up with that is a challenge.
It's actually the other way around now, where I feel like the 14-year-olds are the ones who are teaching the 20-somethings. So
that could very well be true. Yeah.
we'll be with cousins, my younger siblings, and they'll say a word, and I'll be like, what does that even mean? Like, I've never heard of that before. So they're almost teaching us now. So I've gotten to a point where I'm like, whoa, okay, so you guys are the cool kids now. So it's just really interesting to see that shift happen, for sure.
Yeah. So how do you stay on top of all of these things? I mean, you're clearly an out of the box thinker, and you are, from our earlier conversations, obsessed with learning, because this is constantly changing. So what do you do to stay one step ahead?
Yeah, I think reading is always really important, whether it's reading books, reading the news, just staying on top of different blogs, and networking. That's probably the biggest one. Interestingly enough, I'm very introverted. I have to really force myself to put myself out there and go to different meetups and go to different events and be in a crowd and network and get to know people. But I found that it's one of the best ways to understand what's going on and understand what's latest and greatest, because every brand is having different experiences, and we may all be on the same track. We may be doing very similar things, but we're all doing it in a very unique way. So it's really important to get those different perspectives. And especially for someone like me, where I've grown up in edibles, my life, I live and breathe fruit. I always have forever, except for the little bit of time I spent at the agency. So because of that, it's even more important to get out there, because I don't have experiences from many different brands where we've done things different ways, whether it's a small company or a big company, large budgets, small budgets. So because of that, networking is so important, and being able to go out there, understand what's going on, learn from different people, and bringing that back to Edible and saying, hey, I saw this happen, or there's something really cool going on with X. How do we implement it? How do we get involved? How can we make it happen here? So I'd say that's probably one of the most important things for me right now. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, it's shifted around a bit. So it's all virtual now, which for me, I'm like, okay, I don't have to be out, which is okay. But at the same time, I'm itching to get back out there, because during the pandemic, during this time, you have a lot of time to think and reflect and just think about all of the other things that could be going on. So I'm excited when things start to settle down and we get back into our new normal.
So, but I wanted to address something else that Edible is starting to do. So you're stretching yourself to learn from other industries, other companies, and what they're doing to see how maybe that applies. And of course, you're doing the same. You're sharing your insights. But you've also recently at Edible started to partner or align with companies that aren't fruit, right?
Yeah.
So that's a stretch. And how is that all working?
It is a stretch, and it's really interesting because we say internally that we have to start thinking outside the fruit basket. If we want to grow, we have to start thinking past edible arrangements, right? What is complementary to edible that we could offer to our customers? So for example, we recently went into a strategic partnership with Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. And we're carrying their products bundled with our products in our stores. And they also direct ship a few items for us. We carry popcorn. We now have a new line launching called Edible Bake Shop, with cookies and cheesecakes and brownies, and so many other baked goods, which is different because we've always done fruit and chocolate dipped fruit. But it's really important to do that and to diversify the portfolio, because you want to give customers more reasons to buy. And I said that earlier too. You want to increase that frequency. We want to give them different product offerings, but we also want to give them different price points. And it's nice to be able to have that and to be able to find things that are complementary with fruit. It's actually really interesting. When we launched our cookies last year, we had a company huddle and we put out a massive, big, beautiful party size arrangement. And then we put out this platter of cookies. The platter of cookies was gone in a minute.
Boom, yeah.
Completely wiped out. And the arrangement was still there. Everyone went for the cookies. So no matter how much you have that, healthy lifestyle and healthy living and eating well, you still want a little bit of the indulgence. You want that chocolate and you want the cookie. That'll never go away. So we're trying to figure out, how do we start to, like I said, give more reasons to buy, create more opportunities for frequency and repeat purchase, and really become that one-stop shop for all of your food gifting and treating needs, whether you're getting something for your kid because they did great on a test, or for your friend because she got a promotion, or for your mom for Mother's Day. You can come to Edible and you can rely on Edible to give you what you need.
So some of this diversification has brought down your price point, right? And made it a little bit more affordable. And so I would think that before the pandemic, I'm sure some of this was going into play. But I would imagine you probably sped some of it up just to get new things out there at a wider variety of price points faster. Is that what y'all did?
Yeah, so over the last year or so, we've really started to highlight our gifts under 50 category, and focus on those smaller ticket transactions, because like I said, we want the frequency to increase. So instead of just that one $80 arrangement, come back a few times for that $30, $40 gift or that $30, $40 treat. When the pandemic hit, our sales were up, so we were doing pretty well. And like everyone else in March, we took a pretty big hit. But we had so many other things in the works already. So we launched a fresh fruits box, which was whole produce. I think from the moment the idea came up that, hey, we've had this in the pipeline, we should launch it, to it being on the website, it was about 8 hours.
Wow.
Literally within a day, we were like, we've been trying to do this for so long. Now's the perfect time. People can't find produce at the grocery stores. You have elderly folks who are immunocompromised, who can't leave their homes or who don't feel safe leaving their homes. This is the perfect opportunity. We have e-commerce, we have delivery, we can do it. So we went ahead and we launched it, and we saw some great success. It was at a great entry price point of $19.99. And we've started to keep that category going, and we're slowly growing it. And I think it's easy to say like, hey, Edible's seeing all of this success right now because of COVID, or because of the impact of COVID. I say a little bit because we are that perfect gift when, there's Easter, we had Mother's Day, we have graduations, and you can't be at the party or you can't have the celebration. It is the perfect gift for those occasions. But at the same time, there were a lot of brands who kind of took the backseat and said, hey, we're just going to ride this out. And we were not one of them. I think for us, it was speed up everything that we have going on already. Let's see what else we can do to give our consumers what they need. It really worked out well for us.
Absolutely brilliant. In fact, I would be one of those that if you had a subscription model where you could send me that produce every month or however often it's
How did you know? It's in the works.
Is it?
We do. Definitely. That's the next step. Probably not this year, but hopefully next year.
Yeah. I mean, make it so much easier, fresh coming to my door in a beautiful box.
Yeah.
That would be like fabulous. Absolutely.
Well, and that the other thing about going back to saying, COVID, people might say that would be the reason behind your success because you had the perfect business model for it. If you hadn't been prepared and you hadn't been doing the hard work ahead of time, you would not have been able to get that up in 8 hours. So clearly all of that preparation that you've been doing all of this time paid off.
And like I said, cool. Lean teams, scrappy teams who are great at execution. Analysis paralysis is a thing where you keep thinking about something and thinking, is this the right thing to do? Should we do it? How should we do it? And this was just one of those quick decisions. It was everyone got in the room and said, we're going to do it. All right, let's do it now or never. And when you have that type of mentality and when you have leadership who supports it and who pushes the team to think fast and to execute, it really helps everyone grow and it helps the business grow. Because all you're thinking about is the customer. What can I do for the customer right now that's going to help them? And how are we going to go and make and fill the world with goodness, which is our mission, and celebrate what's good in life, right? When you have that focus and when you have that purpose in mind, it's really easy to get this stuff going and to bring it to life quickly.
So is this a top-down type of thing then? Because this kind of leadership is unique to encourage consistent innovation and execution. It's a unique culture that you have created. Has it always been there? And what do you guys do to kind of foster it and to nurture that quick thinking, out of the fruit basket thinking and execution?
Yeah, I think a lot of it starts with the founder. So it definitely starts there when you have a founder, my dad, and when you have a president, a COO, Chuck Boop, who's been with us for a few years, when they're driven and they're all about execution and they're all about innovation and they really enjoy innovation, it flows down to the rest of the team. That similar mindset, it trickles down, but at the same time, they're very motivating and encouraging. They're always pushing the teams to do more. They're always pushing the teams to think outside the fruit basket. I love that we're sticking to that one. And I think the other thing too is with me as a leader, what's really important is making sure that my team is comfortable trying new things and failing fast. So if you have an idea and if you want to do something, let's go try it and let's figure it out, right? And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But the most important thing is if it didn't work, understand why. So what happened that caused this to not work? And then if you do try a second time, just remember those learnings from the first time. But when you have that environment where you're encouraging people to try and you're encouraging them that it's okay if you fail, as long as you try and you understand what you were doing and you had a goal, let's keep doing it because that's how magic happens. It's really important to make sure that it exists within the team, not just at the top. So,
Right.
and like I said, it all starts with leadership who is encouraging and motivating and inspiring, and always, talking to various team members about what else we could be doing to succeed and grow the business.
I love the culture that nurtures trying, right?
Yeah.
And which
Yep.
takes, and it's okay. You made a boo-boo. We failed. Not a big deal. What did we learn? Let's
Yep.
regroup and throw you back out to try something else and
Yeah.
try something else. Because innovation is the lifeblood of a business. And when we stop innovating, not only does it get more boring, but we are now not as competitive. So this kind of innovation that's been at Edible keeps you constantly one step ahead.
It does. Yeah,
beautiful.
definitely. Yeah. And it's really important to make sure that we're always one step ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want people to be creative, and you want them to be thinking 3, 4, 5 years ahead. Of course, you have to focus on the now, but when you have that same purpose and you have that same promise, which is wow at Edible, our promise is to wow you, right? To wow every customer. When you always have that in mind, you won't do anything that doesn't wow. So we have this thing internally where my dad actually, if he has a drink or a smoothie, or he sees a new product, and his thing is, if I don't say wow, then we got to go back to the drawing table. The first word out of your mouth should always be wow, or whoa, this is so cool. This is awesome. We have to launch it. People are going to love it. So I think having that as a baseline, and having that as the foundation of the brand really helps the team think outside the box, because if it's not a wow, don't bring it to the table.
It's a great philosophy. And one thing I want to go back to is leadership. You talked about as a leader, what you're doing, and you've talked a lot about your father and how he's influenced the team and how he leads with innovation and fail fast. I love that. If you're going to fail fast and move on and figure it out. So tell me about you as a leader. You're a young woman in a company that's been around for a while now. You tried outside work, which I think is very wise. It gives you a different perspective. Do you want to be in the family business? Would you rather stay out and forge a path on your own? So talk to us a little bit about how you came to some of those decisions and how you're gaining confidence as a young female leader in business.
Yeah, look, there's always challenges, and there's always opportunities, and it's an uphill battle, but it's been going well so far. I think having the support system is really important, whether it's mentors, and obviously my dad is a huge mentor in my life, and having people who are a sounding board, who are always encouraging and motivating. And I think just reminding that, you got this, you can do it. And also taking a step back and looking at what I've accomplished so far. So with every role that I've been in, I always have this goal in mind of what I want to achieve. And I always have this next milestone in front of me, right? So for me, I'm on a path, and, we know the path that I'm on, and I have a milestone. And I always have in mind, what do I need to do to be able to hit that milestone to get to the next step? Having that sort of plan, even though it's not very rigid, having something in place and having those guardrails is really helpful for growth. And it's just really helpful to understand that what I'm doing is working, and I am successful, and I am accomplishing a lot, right? Because it's very easy to just get stuck in this mindset of I'm not doing enough, especially as a woman, and especially as a 27-year-old woman in the position that I'm in. So it's important to just keep in mind that we've come a long way. I've come a long way, and there's still a long way to go. So based on where I am in the position that I'm in right now, yes, I do feel like I have accomplished things, but I have way more to go. There's a lot of runway ahead of me.
Great analogy.
But I love to see you owning it, that these are my accomplishments. I have accomplishments. I know where I am, and I know where I want to be. Because I think that's a thing that a lot of women struggle with, being able to say those things. I am accomplished for where I am and what I've achieved. I'm in a good place. And I love that you're saying that. And I think it's a great lesson for other young women.
And I'll say I haven't always said it. So I'm always reminding myself. And I think, being in a family business, living with a very tight-knit family, you're in an environment where, there's a lot of opinions, but there comes a time where you have to really start to step back and say, am I doing this for me? Right. And what am I hoping to achieve, and who do I want to be? And just forgetting like this whole idea of like, what's someone going to think if I do this or if I say this, and just pushing myself and getting out of my comfort zone. And it takes a lot to be able to say, yes, I do feel accomplished. It's very difficult at times, but that's the only way you grow. I mean, if you don't feel like you're accomplishing, right, it's really hard to get to that next step. So that's why goals are so important. It's always important to make sure you have that goal in mind and you understand that, you know, when you hit it, yes, you're moving on to something else.
So this goal-oriented you, again, innate or something you were taught? And do you have any tips or tricks that you can offer other young women in business, franchisees, franchisors, or just women in general, that has us not only appreciate where we came from and how far we've come and be fully present, but at the same time set these solid goals in place? Do you have any strategies for that, or tips or tricks that you use to set those goals?
Yeah, I think for me, it's always just been like this. And part of that's because I grew up in a very entrepreneurial household. So when you grow up in a family where, you know, you have your parents, you know, dad has his own business and he's an entrepreneur, everything is a negotiation. So you're growing up in an environment where this idea of entrepreneurship is always being fostered, right? And it's all about, you know, doing what you want to do, but then at the same time understanding. So I think the goal portion of, you know, how I organize myself, I've always been like this. I was like this when I was in middle school. I was like this when I was in college, where, you know, I wanted to do something and I was going to figure out how I was going to get there. I think reflection is really important. And really looking inside and really understanding, what do you want to do and why? What's the why and what's the purpose of what you're trying to do? And why are you trying to get there? When you have that purpose, it makes it a lot easier to get to that goal. Yeah. If you have that reasoning, it makes it does, like I said, it makes it easier and it makes it more fun too, right? So having fun while you're trying to achieve your goals is really important too, and making sure you're doing something that you really love.
Okay, I got to tell a secret here. Can you tell our listeners about the essays that you had to write? Do you mind telling that story and how it's really helped to negotiate and get to the next?
Yeah, sometimes I think that my parents made me do it to make me like shut up, I guess, but they would, whenever I wanted to do something, I would write essays. And I think I may have actually started doing it on my own, where if there was something somewhere I wanted to go. So the main example is when I was in 6th grade, I got admitted to a magnet school down the street on lottery. And it was a pretty big deal because the middle school that I was going to be going to, it wasn't that great. It's a middle-class town. I was, you know, ahead of my grade already. So my parents were like, oh, that's great. You know, she got into magnet school. I wrote this wonderful 5-paragraph persuasive essay explaining to them in writing why I shouldn't go to the magnet school. And it was so compelling that my dad agreed and let me go to the public school for a year. So I think just having those experiences and being like that since the age of 11, you create that natural negotiation skill, and it helps you in other stages of your life as well. Being able to, especially when you start practicing it at such a young age. But yeah, essays were totally my thing.
Thank you for resharing that story, because it definitely taught you how to negotiate and how to be highly persuasive. And those are both key elements to good leadership skills. Right? We're always having to persuade a group of folks to go particular, and there's always going to be pushed back. And so that negotiation skills has helped you in your leadership role.
And especially when you're in a role that's all about driving revenue. Right. And especially when you're in a franchise, because on the other side, you have your franchise partners, the ops team, who's always looking at profitability and they're looking at COGS, right? So that negotiation and that power of persuasion is super important when you're in a role where your goal is top line sales and revenue.
Yep.
Absolutely. So what's your next goal?
So we at Edible right now, we're like I said, we are working on creating a food gifting marketplace. So we want to be your one-stop shop for all of your food gifting needs. And it's a pretty big project for us. And there's a lot of different mini initiatives that are and programs that are within it, such as personalization and customization. I think it's our big project for 2021. I think that's going to be my next professional milestone. Personally, my next milestone, and one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, is really getting out there and getting to know the industry more and telling people in the industry who I am and what I'm doing, and what my work is all about. So those are probably the two big focuses for the next 12 months.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, I tell you what, this has been such a fun conversation. I want to go on and on and on and on and learn more about you, but we're kind of running out of time. Could you do us a favor and tell our listeners where they can get hold of you, if they wanted to learn more about Edible or have you on other podcasts or panel discussions? I know you're available for those kinds of things. How would they get hold of you?
LinkedIn is probably the best place. So LinkedIn is one of my new favorite social media apps. So reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email at sfarid@edible.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. I thought this was a really fun and exciting interview. And we would love to have you back anytime you have big news with Edible. So, be sure to reach out if you have anything to report. And good luck with your goals. I'm excited for you.
Thanks so much for having me. This was great.
We'll be watching you, girl.
Thank you.
And we will be back next time with more passion and purpose.